in this tutorial, we're just going to be looking at how to essentially get a screen recording of the work that you're making in TouchDesigner using the built-in tools in TouchDesigner. So to start with, we're just going to go ahead and create a movie file in, so we can bring something in. And let's go ahead and go to our parameters menu over here, and we're going to hit that plus sign and then go find ourselves a video. I'm just going to use one of the nature videos. It's in the nature folder, and we'll do movie 4, sure. Okay, and the only reason for this is then we actually have, video coming out. So the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to create an audio file, or an audio input as well. And so if I go to audio file in under my chops, and let's say I'm not going to do anything to the audio, we're just going to leave it be, but let's say we do like a couple things to the video. I'm going to go ahead and displace it. And in order to do that, I'll need something to do the displacing. So we'll just grab another movie file in. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and paste it. And let's use something other than water flowing. We could go ahead, this one would probably be great, right? So this is like mist hazing over here. If I put this in the other input, right, you can see that I'm getting, a very different output. Not exactly awesome, but you know what, it's different. We can see that we're getting something out of this. Okay, so now let's say we've made our master. This is it. This is all we're doing. Best project we've ever made, with only like 4 elements. So now we're going to look at how to present this, so to make it full screen, things like that, and then also how to export that as a file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on here, and what I want to do is I want to create an out, right? And outs basically, are meant to be the end of the chain. They send the video signal out. You can do a lot of stuff with nulls as well, but in this case we're going to be using an out. So the other thing that we're going to want here is a window. And windows, if we double click, you go to the comp page, and it's this very bottom one here. If I go ahead and drop this in, you'll see I have window 1, and there's nothing in there right now. But I want you to note that there's this window operator. And basically we can either type out the name, or we can drag and drop any operator that we want to be the window operator into that field. So I'm going to go ahead and just click and drag on out 1 and drop it in there. And you'll see that it should show up here. Now that I've done that, what this is doing is basically if I go to this perform button here and click on it, it's going to put this into a window, right? And this is going to be that full resolution, which, in the non-commercial version is going to be limited to 1280 by 720. But I can go ahead and full screen this at that same resolution, right? It's just going to blow it up. So now I've got this full screened. I'm in perform mode. That's pretty awesome. I'm going to go ahead and hit escape and pop out of there. Now I do want you to note, if all the project files you've been working with are square at this point, it's going to create a square video file, right? That's the dimensions it's going to be set at. You can make adjustments to that. But that's where you're going to be set. So you might want to modify things earlier in your chain or something like that if you want it to be letterbox. If you're happy with it being square, fantastic. Okay, so we're able to perform it now, right? We just click on this perform button, and then we hit escape, and it'll pop us back to the other mode. Now note, if you had multiple monitors, I only have one right now connected to this, but if I had multiple, I could also send it to a different monitor. And I think there's other ways you can set it to full screen, or to just go straight to full screen. It doesn't really matter. Most of these settings are really specific for different use cases. But yeah, that's what we got. Okay. So now we need to get this out of our thing and actually save it to a video file, right? And we're going to want audio in there as well. So if I go ahead and double click somewhere in space and I go to my tops, what I want to do is I want to go to movie file out. And so I've created this movie file out. And you'll see that in my settings, there's a bunch of different options here. Right now, this video codec by default is set to photo motion JPEG. What that means is it's going to be creating an image sequence. If you're not familiar with what an image sequence is, basically it's numbered JPEG files in this case, and you'll have a folder absolutely full of JPEG files that are then, in this case, going to be encapsulated in this MOV file. In terms of quality, this is the highest quality you can expect. Animation is a very similar codec that's also going to work well. If you want something that's a little bit faster, you'll see there's this H.264, right? These are smaller file sizes. If you've got the space and time, it might make sense to leave it at the default settings and then bring it into a different piece of software later to do that conversion, because then you have a high quality version, and then you could potentially create a smaller version of that later. If you're on Apple, you'll have Apple ProRes. If you've installed other video codecs on your computer for other things, you might have some other options here that I don't. That's just a heads up. So because usually, like you'll see this type here is movie, image sequence, stop frame movie, right? So an image sequence is going to be the same as what's happening now, except it will be that open folder that you can go through and actually select images from. However, it will not record audio that way, or at least not in the same file. And so for our case, movie is going to be our best bet. And we can change the color format. We're going to leave it at that format. The audio codec we can change. We can change the audio bit rate. 128 kilobits per second is basically the most compressed form of MP3. We could make this much better quality. For our purposes, to make this go fast, I'm going to keep it at 128. But if you're doing something for like that you want to sound professional and sound the same quality that you're hearing without any artifacts or weirdness, especially like distortion when things get a little bit higher, you're going to want to go up to 320 kilobits. And basically what happens is one of the ways it saves data is it really truncates sounds that are above a certain frequency threshold. And it sounds more and more tin canny, I guess would be the best bet. You lose dynamic range. And then there's distortion and other strange artifacts that happen as you go down from 320 kilobits per second. But for this tutorial, we're going to leave it at 128. And then, so I just need to tell it which audio chop to use. And so we currently don't have audio coming out. I'm going to go ahead and just drag this audio file in because that's what we want to use. And then I'm going to connect the output of the output into my movie file in. And I think that should work. Let me double check and make sure that out isn't special in some way. No, yeah, so both of these are not going to be showing any preview yet. And so it doesn't really matter which one of these we use. Okay, so now we've got this set, and we can go ahead and make our file. So we need to tell it where we want this to go. So I'm going to hit the plus sign, and I am going to just, I'm going to go ahead and save this into the folder that makes the most sense for what I'm teaching right now. And so I've got that set. I'm going to save this as example export and say save. And now it hasn't saved anything yet. I actually have to hit the record button. So I'm going to go ahead and hit record. And now we can just let this record for however long we want. In this case, right, this masterpiece is only a few seconds long. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this. Okay. So I've stopped it. So let's go ahead and find this file and see if it worked. Here we go. Here's my example export. And I don't know if you can hear the audio in that, but the audio is attached. And the video is going. Everything's working exactly how I would like it to. All right, so that is really quickly how you take a project and both either create something so it's easy to perform in its own independent window, full screen it, and then also how to export that, how to save it as a video file. Now, just note, right, video files get large very quickly in this, especially in this codec. If I look at the size of this, let's see here. It's already 174 megabytes, so you want to make sure that you have enough space to store it. If you you can limit the length to a certain number of frames or seconds or whatever. If you're like, oh, I only want to record 5 minutes of this, but it's this project that's going to keep going on, you can go ahead and set that, and then it will stop recording at that point. Okay, that's the end of this tutorial.